So many of us who grew up with trauma live as divided selves, longing for real love, but playing along to keep people around who don't want that. They don't want it with us anyway, but they're happy to soak up all our attention and time and, of course, sex. Our ability to believe that we can change how they feel by pouring out all this love and attention, but never honestly finding out how they feel, like not really hiding from that. It's a classic adult manifestation of emotional neglect in childhood. And as long as those old wounds are driving you, you're going to end up with the same kind of unreliable love that was what you had to settle for as a kid. So what do you do to flip the script here? My letter today is from a woman I'll call Vanessa, and she writes, "Dear Anna, I grew up raised by a young single mother and loving grandparents. My father was in my life for the first few years, but my only memories of him are him being drunk and angry and having screaming matches with my mom. I've got the fairy pencil here, and I'm going to go through and circle things that I want to come back to, but let's go through and see what's happening for Vanessa. My mom was in her 20s and struggled to find a balance between being a mom and having fun. I often would be with my grandparents while she traveled and partied. When I was 10, we immigrated to North America from Eastern Europe. She got married, but I never felt a fatherly closeness with my stepfather. He was authoritarian and clearly favored his own daughters more. There was jealousy there. They'd get presents from their mom as well as their dad, etc., while I only had this one dynamic and no dad's side. I was often bullied in school, and we moved around a lot. I had poor self-esteem entering adulthood. Entering the dating world as an adult, I was first enamored by any guy who was interested in me, since as a child I often felt ugly and unwanted. I almost saw it as an honor of sorts that a guy would be interested in sleeping with me. I would often think to myself that if a guy finds me attractive enough to sleep with, then once he'd get to know me, he would want to be with me. Yeah. In my early 20s, I ended up in a relationship with a narcissist. He was intelligent and charismatic. However, he was also verbally and physically abusive. That relationship lasted 6 months and sadly was my longest lasting relationship. It did serve as a wake-up call for me to start doing self-work, develop a better sense of self-esteem. It was also a difficult lesson in learning that it is, in fact, better to be single than to be stuck with a horrible person. After that last relationship, I dated here and there without hitting it off. And then 2 years ago, I met a guy on a dating app. I'll call him John. At the time, I was active on dating apps and would go on dates here and there, but none of the guys I met seemed to be a good fit. I kind of expected my date with John to go that same way. To my surprise, the date was fantastic. We spent 3 hours talking about anything and everything. We were both interested in seeing each other again, and then we went on another date and another, after which we hooked up. I had a concern that he had gotten out of a long-term relationship only a couple months before meeting me. I asked him questions like, what are his dating intentions? Is he looking for another long-term partner? He told me that he's dating to meet people, but that if he met someone that he could see as a future wife, he wouldn't hesitate to become committed again. That's a complicated answer. Let's come back to that. As we continued to date, we both asked each other questions about our individual future goals, such as did we want kids? We both didn't want them. Where we would want to live, how much time we'd want to dedicate to vacations and traveling each year. I really felt like he was the one and was ecstatic because he seemed to really like me too. I loved his communication style. He'd never leave me on red, and he would always plan to see me again, though often he'd leave picking the date activity to me. After a couple of months of this, I wanted to be exclusive, and it was giving me anxiety that we weren't. We talked about it, and he said he wasn't ready. I was heartbroken. I knew in my heart I should walk away, and I tried to. It lasted a week. I missed John so much that I texted him again and told him that it's okay if he needs more time. I still wanted him in my life. I truly believe that if we were meant for each other, he would lose interest in other people and just want to be with me. I conceded. I realized this was a mistake. John and I continued to see each other for another couple of months. Toward the end, he grew distant. When he broke it off, He told me that he didn't know when he'd be ready and that he wasn't in the right headspace and that it would make him feel better if I just found someone else who was ready to commit. That hurt and offended me. I didn't want just any guy who was in a commitment mindset. I wanted a guy who felt like my person. Felt like my person. There it is. Okay. And that was John. I told him that if he just wasn't into me or that he didn't think we were compatible, to tell me. He wouldn't do that. That was unbearable to me because it made it impossible to shake off the hope that someday we'd end up together. Yeah. A couple of months later, after incessant checking on social media, I saw that he had a new girlfriend. On another social media platform a few months later, I saw that he made a post that they were moving in together in a few months. He was ready to commit. He had no fear of moving quickly. It just wasn't with me. Yeah, there it is. There it is. A year and a half since the breakup, I still struggle not to think of him. I've gone on dates, but they all turn out similarly to the dates that I went on before John. Sometimes there's no physical attraction or chemistry. Other times there's chemistry, but after a couple weeks of talking, some fundamental incompatibility comes to light. None of them feel like my person. I become engulfed with the thoughts that how could he not feel the same way about me? He told me I was beautiful. He liked spending time with me. We'd talk for hours. He opened up to me, but he moved on to someone else so quick, just like my previous situationships. I feel like men see me as an exotic getaway, and not somewhere they want to call home, like they're only here for a good time, not a long time. It makes me question whether I'm girlfriend material or wife material to them, but I can't find the answer why I wouldn't be. I'm attractive, accomplished, have a good career, and am loving and caring. And I'm a loving and caring person. My friends describe me as patient and a good listener and someone who gives good advice. I take pride in my home. Why does this keep happening to me? Am I failing to stay objective when it comes to John and the men before him? I try to do my best to not idealize him, but I struggle to let go of the comfort I felt with him. It felt like we understood each other so well. So it's important to me. What am I missing here? What parts am I failing to heal? Okay, Vanessa, I got you. And yeah, you are missing the forest for the trees here, and I can help you see it. And I think I hear evidence in your letter that you actually are completely clear what just happened. But you have a culture around you that's telling you, no, that couldn't possibly be it. This should work. So let's go through what you said. You had a drunk and angry dad and screaming matches, and your mom was young and went off and partied and abandoned you. And then when you were 10, you immigrated to a different continent and knew shit. You had a stepdad. He liked his other girls better. Boy, that's like a perfect storm setup for somebody to become unable to see red flags, able to tolerate someone treating them like the side chick and, while they pursue something serious with somebody else, and to not hear the signs because you were never treated as somebody who was the most important thing, and which is normal. Children are the most important thing for parents raising children, but they had way other agendas, and they kicked you aside and you were sort of dragged along, and then you got bullied in school and moved around a lot. And yeah, that would do it to anybody, Vanessa. But now you're free. Now you're an adult. And let's see, you're turning 32 soon. So you're solidly into adulthood. And you want a serious relationship with somebody. You want to settle down. And that's lovely. And there's a whole different way that you can approach dating if that's your agenda. So the way that you've been dating is go ahead and do hookups and see if it turns into a great big romance. But the trouble is, when you start dating that way, it has a way of, first of all, how many months you were with this guy? 4 months? You just lost 4 months that you could have been out there dating people who were actually available. When you quoted the questions that you asked him, they weren't the real questions. And the answers he gave you were the dead giveaway that he was going to do what he was going to do. So you got enamored with any guy interested. So that energy right there, that's one thing when we have that, and that's, neglected kids turn into people who do that. Just like, oh, wow, somebody's interested in me. This is huge. I have to, give all my dating power to this person. And we tie up all our emotional energy with this. We will almost always get our heart broken when we're coming from that place of like, oh, somebody has chosen me, instead of where we're sitting on our throne like a queen or king for anybody watching. And you allow information to come to you. You let people present to you, like, who are they? What are they like? What are they into? But we don't try to, get it out of them and then take all the parts that didn't really fit the picture that we wanted and go, that's all right. I'm sure I can change it later. That's exactly where we go wrong. That is the place where we just like fall off the trail. The train goes off the tracks. If a guy finds you attractive enough to sleep with, I know, like any love at all is so welcome when you've been neglected. But this is different now. You're 32 and now you can certainly, many people will have sex with you if that's all you want, but it's not. So here's the interesting thing. You had been with a narcissist, and you didn't really say why you knew that, but I'll just take your word for it. And then you had to do self-work and get a better sense of self-esteem. And so you've made progress, and that's awesome. So then you were dating, and you weren't hitting it off with a lot of people. And then you met this guy that felt like your person. And I know that feeling. But what's so interesting is that he was not your person. He feels like your person, but he basically told you, this was the dead giveaway, is when you were talking about, like, what did you want? Is he looking for another long-term partner? Well, first of all, are you looking for a long-term partner, or are you looking for a spouse? When I work with people who have been traumatized in the past and have attachment wounds, they have a real problem stating what they want as the full thing, the entire ice cream sundae, of like, and so a long-term partner means it's for a certain number of years, but probably not for many, right? What is it, 2 years, 4 years, 6 years? Is that actually what you want? And then you want it to end? I don't think so. So I'm going to encourage you to get very clear. What is it that you do want? And to not be ashamed on a date to say, I'd like to get married. And then what dating is for, Vanessa, dating is to get to know people and see if they are the person you will marry. Unless your goal is to say, I don't know, I just want to have some flings for a couple of years, or I just want to be in a long-term relationship and then later get serious about settling down with somebody. But I don't think that's what you're saying. I think you're having trouble saying out loud what you want and owning it. And the thing is, there are men out there who are looking, they're coming from that place that they would like to get married. They're not going to marry everybody they date. They're dating people to get to know them. And especially if you're meeting people online, it takes a lot of getting to know you, because lightning doesn't strike very often just because people look good on paper. Plus people can, put their best foot forward, and you really have to get to know people, I would say, for 1.5 to 2 years before you knew if they were the one for you. But we have this sabotaging element inside of attraction. And because you were neglected and you had a raging drunk dad and a mom who just abandoned you all the time in order to party, you got wired with this attraction to people who do that to you, people who are not serious about you, people who don't put your well-being, at the high level it should be at. So you learn to crap fit that. Do you know that word, Vanessa? Crap fitting is when we fit ourselves to crap. We accept unacceptable people and situations. And we had to do it as kids. We get too good at it. And if you don't change it, if you don't start setting the bar where you actually want the bar, and then having the courage to break up with people or not go on a second date with people who give you answers that don't fit your standards for what you need, you're going to keep having this experience over and over again. You'll feel attraction for people who are sort of charming and neglectful, right? That's your pattern. Charming, but not into you. And the thing is, you'll always find people who, if you're offering we can have some fun, we can have sex, and you are not putting up an objection if they're like, I don't know, if I ever meet somebody that I'm into, I would commit. But right now I'm just trying to meet people. Okay. That is code for just sex. It's saying one day I might, but just sex. When somebody meets another person where they're thinking, oh my gosh, I think this could be the one, they don't answer that way. And I would just disqualify somebody from that. Finish the date, But just get very clear with yourself. What you need to hear is, yes, I am open to committing, and that they're dating at this time in their lives to meet that person, and they're waiting to see if it's you. You can do that. That's a very powerful position to be in while dating. To marry somebody, you have this tremendous gift to give of, your life, your time. Perhaps you don't want children, but your financial sharing capacity for the rest of life. This is a tremendous gift that you have to give another person. So you don't just like, here, take the gift and let me know if you're going to return it or not. You kind of hold your gift and you're like, let me get to know you. Yeah, tell me about you. And you are taking your time to find out what they are like. Are they somebody you really are compatible with? You could never know that from a couple of dates. And if you have attachment wounds, I would almost say, you have to really discount. You cannot take literally the feeling of like, oh, this feels like the one, because almost all of us have that experience where we get a very strong visceral reaction to somebody who matches the neglect that we were used to. So sometimes, and I'm not going to say 100% of the time, but it takes time to date because you have to get through your own red flag detector problems, right? Your own tendency to eroticize somebody who's not into you, because that's what has happened before. So you have to get through that period of time. Now, some people push back on me and they're like, are you saying I can't just have sex whenever? And I'm like, you can do whatever you want. But if you want to get to know people first, yes, I'd recommend you delay sex quite a while and get to know them. And if they are serious about settling down, if they're interested in you, they will stick around for this. And in fact, you can find somebody who has the same standards, that they're not going to rush in. They're not going to get all sexually entangled with somebody. I know that's common right now, but you know what else is common right now is people never marrying or having children. Not settling down. That's very common now in a big way, like it didn't used to be. So if you want to go that route, and I heard you, it's not children for you, but when this guy moved in with a girlfriend, you were so jealous. Get very clear. Is that all you want? Do you want to live with a guy? Because you've got time to live with a dozen guys in your life, but I don't think that's what you want. Aim high, be honest. Be honest about what you want with yourself and allow yourself to be honest with other people and allow the chips to fall where they may. And that means you're on a date and they say something vague like, well, I'm just kind of out there to meet a lot of people, which means sleep with people, and then eventually if somebody really strikes my fancy, I would do that. So, but I'm going to get to the real thing that was coded here. And this comes up a lot. People with good intentions don't want to hurt others, and they may not have the courage or willingness to be totally straight with us and say, I was kind of attracted to you, but as I got to know you, I just realized it's not there for me. You're not the one for me. I need to keep looking. That's the honest truth. But a lot of times what they will say, and I think this is common for men, and they are doing it out of consideration, even though it might not be the best way or the most helpful way, but it might be cowardly. I acknowledge that, but I also, I just give them credit. Like, they don't want to hurt you, and they don't want to deal with you crying and being hurt either. But they're just saying, I'm not ready for a relationship. So I think it's possible that somebody would not be ready for a relationship and just wants casual flings, and they're upfront about that. But, if you listen to letters on my channel, I often get letters from people where they were told up front, I'm not ever going to settle down. I only want sex. This is never going anywhere. And still the person writing to me will like believe that they can turn it around. Hope springs eternal. And that energy that we have to like give love of that high caliber is precious, and it belongs directed at somebody who actually can reciprocate it, because it's, this is like gold, it's diamonds of human experience, to love somebody that much. It's very, very precious. So if you're just like throwing it at people who are like, seriously, I don't want it, you've just drained yourself of it. And it over time, every time this happens, you develop a little more defensiveness, a little more cynicism, a little more low self-esteem. And I don't want that for you. You don't want that for you. You want to be sitting on your throne, knowing what you want in your life, and, getting to know people and seeing what they are telling you about themselves and how that feels for you. One of the biggest clues you can go by is how you feel. So when you're dreading things, when you're anxious all the time about whether they call, that's a problem. So you said, you made a mistake where when you said, I just want us to be exclusive, and he said he didn't want to. So I know that it's possible that somebody could be given more time for that. Maybe you gave it as an ultimatum that you felt like you had to stick with. It is possible to say, I'm interested in being exclusive. And you don't give people a timeline, but you have a mental timeline of how long you want to put up with it. But it's really good you're writing to me, and I hope that you will have friendships with other women who have experience dating and who are dating, who can help you think that through and who don't have unrealistic expectations about that. Either that you can just sort of pretend to go along with somebody who's having casual dating with you and hope that they come around, nor are you making threats you don't intend to carry out. Like, if you don't get exclusive with me right now, I'm going to break up with you. It is okay to say, I would like that. It's feeling kind of more, it's making me anxious that we're not exclusive yet. But, then one day to just say, okay. And he says, well, I'm not ready for that. And you go, okay, all right. And you don't have to make any threats. You don't have to tell him any deadlines. I don't really favor giving people deadlines because it's kind of like putting a negative pressure on them and a threat, and it doesn't allow, what we really want is, especially in early dating, you've been dating a couple months, you want to sort of organically experience what is the chemistry like with you two. And that's a lovely, lovely thing to know, to just see what unfolds. So you can do that. But I hear you, like, I wouldn't want to date. Here's where the line gets crossed. And it's when you have sex. When you have sex, and you have an attachment wound, it's very hard to fake it that you're okay with things that are not okay. The stakes go way up, and that's natural. It's okay. You can honor that in yourself. You cannot sleep with people early on. And I would recommend that to you. And if you think nobody will do that with you, you are not dating people who are interested in you. People who are interested in you can do that. And because you want to get through this culture of people who are just dating, just crashing through the human population, you don't want to participate in that. You want something higher than that. You get to set the standard for yourself and surprise yourself with who shows up are people who match your vision for how it can be. There are many people who want that too. So I encourage you to do that. Now, for you, Vanessa, and anybody watching this, if you have trouble seeing the red flags that somebody is not going to be somebody who's into you, I have a free download for you. There's egregious red flags and there's subtle ones, and I've listed them on this PDF. It's free, and you can get it by clicking right here.